Hi, welcome to our video on how we record drums at Lost Tribe Audio. So this is part one of a two-part video. In part two, we basically play the drums for you, play a couple of cover versions, do some soloing, some noodling around, just to kind of give you an idea of the sonic capabilities of what we can do. Okay, so to give you some background and some context to this, we live in what I would describe as a noise-sensitive zone. We have neighbours on both sides, and essentially the studio is built in an oversized double garage, and inside that double garage is what you call a traditional studio construction, where you've got an inner wall that doesn't touch the outer walls. So we have all the usual sort of sound stopping materials fitted, including a double skin wall on the outer building as well. Unfortunately, some of the low level sound information still escapes to the outside world. So things like floor toms, kick drums, basically kind of drummy type things, acoustically can travel through and get to the outside. Now, although that level is very, very low, that is somewhat of an issue for us, and that can't happen. So what we needed was an innovative solution to overcome that, and a way of recording drums that would work for us and would work for bands and drummers, that would give you a good experience and a good outcome, but overcome the problems of noise. So I've always been interested in how drums sound, and always wanted them to sound as good as they possibly could, which I guess in some ways is why I got into electronic percussion, triggering, samples, that kind of thing. I've always played electronic or hybrid drums, which work really well in function bands, that kind of thing, cover bands. I guess that's what kind of gave me the kind of the concept for doing it in this way, or the way that we're going to show you now. So what is it that we do? So we have a house kit that's permanently set up that you'll use. So it is a Gretsch Catalina Club in a lovely gold sparkle colour. It's in what we call the one up, one down sort of configuration. So one rack tom, one floor tom, kind of standard setup these days for drum kits. I've been playing a kit like that for about 15 years. I've got to admit, back in the day, I had kits with a lot more pieces to them, a lot more tom-toms. And on reflection, I would say that was pretty much unnecessary, and just gave me a lot of stuff to haul around. So yeah, really happy with one up, one down. That seemed the kind of the sensible thing to implement here in our studio. So we ought to say, before we get too far into this, that if you are somebody who really needs to play an acoustic drum kit, especially if you've got a big kit, if you've got like a double kick kit with multiple toms, and you want to sort of channel your inner Lars Ulrich or something, then we're probably not the right place for you, especially if you really need to do that and record that acoustically. If you do, fantastic, totally understand that. All power to you, and obviously enjoy your recording elsewhere, and good luck with that. So in practice, this is how it works. We have real acoustic hi-hats, ride and crash cymbals. We've got our own set of cymbals here. We've got Paiste, Zildjian, we have Menel, Istanbul, all sorts that are available for you to use. Alternatively, you can bring your own cymbals along. We get those swapped out and get those recorded for you as well. Either is absolutely fine. So the drums themselves have mesh heads. Mesh heads are commonly used on electronic drums, sort of higher end electronic drums for the last probably decade or so have had mesh heads. So some of you will be familiar with that. We use drum heads from a German company called Drumtech. They make fantastic mesh heads, very, very realistic feel and bounce. That when you sort of match that with what you're hearing, it really is a good experience, a positive experience. So on the kit then, we use 3 mics. We've got 2 overheads and 1 on the hi-hat. And then everything else is done through Roland triggers. So when you hit the mesh head, the signal goes through the trigger, through the cables into our Roland TD15 drum brain. And from the drum brain, there is a single cable which comes into the control room where I'm sat now, into our interfaces and into the computer. And that's it. So you'll hear your whole performance through the headphones, and we'll attempt to give you a really good mix really good balance of yourself, the whole kit, and your colleagues in the rest of the band. There are so many advantages to this. For example, we don't get problems in the mix with cymbals bleeding into snare and tom mics. That's one big plus. And the other one that I can think of straight off the bat would be that you have access to our extensive library of drum samples. So we use Easy Drummer, Superior Drummer, and Stephen Slate drums to give you access to a almost sort of unending catalogue of sounds. So if you want to sound like Bonham, and you want that big 26-inch kick drum, and you want the plate reverb on the snare, we can do that. If you want to sound funky and change up to a sort of tight, high-pitched snare drum and channel James Brown, we can do that. And if you decide at a later date that the drum kit or the snare drum or whatever that you'd selected on the session wasn't the one that you wanted, it wasn't really doing it for you, then obviously we can change that out and replace it later on. So another thing I can think of is if in the unlikely event you didn't play all the right notes in the right places, obviously again later on we can just move those around, tighten things up, add things, delete things, and just make it sound how you want it to sound. So in terms of the practicalities, what you need to bring when you come for a session here, so you can bring your own drum thrones, you can bring your own pedals, you can bring your own hi-hat stand, you can bring your own cymbals. But however, we have a good set of all those things here. We've got a couple of drum thrones, we've got a Pearl and we've got a Tama, so we've got a tractor style and a round seat as well. We have Iron Cobra kick pedals. So about the only thing you definitely need to bring is your own drumsticks. So a little summary for you then. So when recording here at Lost Tribe Audio, you do have to use the house drum kit. The only exceptions to that would be by prior arrangement, and it would probably be something like if you wanted to record a jazz trio, and that would obviously make perfect sense to record that acoustically, where you're using a lot of brushes and a lot of low volume stuff. That would be absolutely fine. So we've got plenty of microphones to mic up a whole kit acoustically. That's not an issue. But for everything else, you'll be using the house kit. So monitoring. So you'll hear everything through headphones, as will the rest of the band. For isolation and sound quality purposes, we've found that our Audio Technica ATH M50s work really well, give you good sound insulation. That said, if you have your own headphones, or particularly if you have in-ear monitors, especially ones that are made for your ears, then please bring those along, because our system can work with those and drive those as well. So by all means, bring those. So I hope that's been useful. I think you're really going to enjoy your experience here. I think you're going to have a good sound when you track and when you record. You're going to enjoy that. You get a good balanced sound of the kit, what you're doing, your performance, and your colleagues in the rest of the band. You can have your own mix. That's not a problem. You can feed in click tracks, backing tracks, anything you need. So that should be a good experience. And most importantly, when you come in and you listen to the rough mix, and when you get the final mix, you should find that the drum sounds are pretty darn good. But obviously you'll be the judge of that, not me. And we hope that you enjoy your time with us. So I've tried not to go into too much detail here and go too deep. But if you do have other questions, please contact me. Please email or message me, and I will get back to you with a response and some answers to your queries. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in part 2. Start again. How difficult can this be? It makes mixing. Ugh.